Welcome to another episode of One on One with Mitch Lafon. I am your host, Mitch Lafon. Joining me this week, special guest Jim Peterik. He has got a new album called Risk Everything with Marc Scherer. He's also got a book that has come out recently called Through the Eyes of the Tiger, the Rock and Roll Life of Survivor's founding member. But more importantly, the other band that he is involved with, the IDES of March, have a 5-disc box set called Last Band Standing, the definitive 50th year anniversary collection. During our chat, we talk about all these projects as well as working with Frankie Sullivan, any chance that those two might work together again. And I would be remiss if we did not talk about one of rock's most iconic songs, The Eye of the Tiger, and what it meant to him writing it, and so on and so forth. Before we get to Jim, let me remind you that this episode of One on One with Mitch Lafon is brought to you by the Heavy Montreal Festival, taking place August 7th, 8th, and 9th at Parc Jean Drapeau in beautiful downtown Montreal, Quebec, Canada. The lineup is out August 7th. It'll be headlined by Korn. August 8th will be headlined by Faith No More. And closing out the festival this year will be Slipknot on August 9th. Other bands on the bill include Alexis on Fire, Iggy Pop, Lamb of God, Dokken, Lita Ford, Warrant, and very, very exciting to me is Extreme on their Porno Graffiti 20th anniversary tour, playing the entire album. That is newly announced, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But without further delay, let us listen to Survivor's founding member, Jim Peterik, talk about all his various projects. Here's Jim. You know, when speaking to someone like yourself, who's had a career that's been over 50 years, it's not about what questions you ask, but what questions you don't ask sometimes. There's the book, Through the Eye of the Tiger. There's the Ides of March, Last Band Standing box set. And of course, there's Risk Everything, the new CD on Frontiers. Boy, where do we start? And of course, there's Eye of the Tiger. Everybody has to ask about Eye of the Tiger. I guess we'll start with the new music, because that's always exciting. Tell me a little bit about Risk Everything. I've had a chance to hear it. It's a great, great, great album.
Thank you.
What got you motivated to make a new album?
Well, it's funny. A great voice inspires me probably more than anything else.
Right.
Hearing a wonderful sound, and this particular sound, I was in my bedroom. My studio is literally, 10 feet from my bedroom, and there's a soundproof wall, but it's not all that soundproof, And so Larry Millis, he's my engineer, and he's my co-heart in the Ides of March. He was doing some recording. He does independent projects as well, for his own clients. And I heard this amazing voice come through the wall. And I didn't really want to burst in there because I didn't know what I was going to find, But after the session, I said, what the hell is that? Well, it's a band, I'm working with. They're called Arc of Ages. They're local guys, yeah, they're good, but that singer, it rings like a bell. And so I said, let me hear that back. And I heard this voice was somewhere between, so many great voices I've heard, from Mark Free, relatively unknown singer that I've always loved, or Marcy Free, as she now is called.
Right.
To, Tommy Shaw, a little bit of Toby Hitchcock, and all the people I love so much. And I didn't want to steal him away from the band that he was in, but at the same time, the band was floundering a bit. And, we started talking about doing a record. And I had just gotten off of the Pride of Lions record, which was called Immortal. And after I write one, Mitch, it's like I need a break from a particular genre of music. I wasn't ready to do another AOR melodic rock, 80s style. You fast forward to the present kind of an album that I've become kind of popular for.
Right.
And so Mark and I started exploring more of a pop direction. more for the American market, like Michael Bublé or what's the guy's name, Mraz, Jason Mraz. And
Right.
we did about 10 songs like that, and they were really good. But I'm going, where are we going to sell this? Where is this really going to happen? My market is Europe and the melodic rock market in America. It's not Michael Bublé. I mean,
Right.
Mark is a 50-year-old guy who's not going to reinvent the image of a sex symbol. He's a good-looking guy and all that, but let's be realistic, And so finally, about 6 months later, after doing the Michael Bublé trip, I was ready to sink my teeth into more melodic rock again. And we did one song, sent it to Serafino, and I believe the song was one on the album called Chance of a Lifetime. And he said, who is this guy? I love him. And I told him, this is this new guy, Marc Scherer. He used to be in Lovecraft, and he has a long, history in Chicago rock. And he said, let's do a record. And okay, here we go. So that's how it started.
Yeah, and I guess the title is apropos because you are sort of risking everything on this, I guess, unknown singer, right?
Well, that is true. I mean, and there's no accident with that title. I didn't really care. Well, it's not like I didn't care what people think. I just knew that this guy had it, and it was going to make it on its own steam. And we still don't know. It's not out yet. But I do know that the early response has been just, sometimes, Mitch, timing is everything.
Yep.
And putting the right piece of product out at the right time sometimes means more than anything. I don't know. It just seems the timing is right. I don't know why, but there's a real great interest in melodic rock, and I don't know. Things are good.
I think a couple of pieces to the success of melodic rock these days is Frontiers. They have been pushing a multitude of really interesting projects, putting guys like you with new talent like Mark, Revolution Saints. And of course, you got melodicrock.com that Andrew McNeese runs out of Australia, and he really pushes the scene really well.
Yeah.
And, it's just good timing. So is this a one-off, or is this something that you'd like to get a second chance at?
It sounds very dodgy to say time will tell. I really do think there will be a life after Risk Everything. We've had too much fun making the record. And it is a little bit of a different brand than the POL, the Prior Lines thing.
Yep.
For whatever reason, the Prior Lines thing tends to be more dramatic based on Toby's voice, a lot of drama, a lot of big moments. And there's big moments in this record too, but it's more linear. Because I'm not singing, the structure of the songs are different. With Pride of Lions, there's a lot of roller coaster modulations because I sang the low parts and then we had to shift it up for Toby's high parts, Right. So you have all these, calisthenics, quarterly that are cool, but the Pride of Lions thing is more mainstream, down the pike, one key, maybe one modulation at most, Yeah,
absolutely. Boy, I'm gonna start moving around because there's just too much. Last band standing, the definitive 50-year anniversary collection of the Ides of March. First of all, did you ever think you'd get to 50 years with a band?
When you're 13, you never think past, graduation.
Right.
No, man. We never. You don't plan like that. I mean, in those days, you weren't calculated. It wasn't demographics. It wasn't market studies. You're playing because you love to play. Period. Yeah, and you love to get the pizza after the gigs, and you like the attention of the cheerleaders, and you didn't think much past that. And and then we started touring. Obviously we had a big vehicle, and we go, hey, this is pretty cool. But our parents were still going, well, you got to get your college education, and this is a nice hobby, and we're going, I don't know, this could be more than that. Finally broke up in '73. I put together. I did my solo record, and that kind of fizzled.
Right.
Then I decided I was going to put together The Big Deal, which became Survivor.
Right.
But after that fizzled, I put the Ides back. Well, it fizzled for me at any point.
Right.
Put the Ides back together again, and we've been together now since the reforming in 1990, way longer than the first time around. And you just realize how special that initial high school buddies kind of thing was, and that it's not always down to who's got the best chops. Not that the IDES are any slumps, but it's really more than chops. It's chemistry and having fun together. And I'm really, really thankful that we're still together.
Yeah, it really is remarkable. Is this, at some point, do you think we have to wind it down, or do you just keep going?
Like I like to say, I'll be on stage, hopefully playing for about 1,000 people, and I'll go, "Great God in heaven, you know I love," bam, right on the floor, and that'll be it to carry me off, and that's the end. But until that moment, man, I'm going strong.
There you go. Your big hit, you know the one, "Eye of the Tiger."
Yeah, I have heard of that, yes.
Years ago, I was talking to a gentleman named Doug Feger of the Knack, who wrote "My Sharona," and you must know Doug and that song. And he said to me, "My Sharona, Mitch, was my golden albatross around my neck." And I understood that, because he said that everything he did after that, everybody would say, "Well, it's not my Sharona."
Yeah.
Is that sort of how you feel about "Eye of the Tiger"? Is it possible for a song just to be too successful?
Well, in this case, no, that wasn't the condition. We every moment we loved of the success, and I think if we hadn't had success without the Rocky franchise and with vital signs, with songs like "Search Is Over," "Can't Hold Back," "High on You," it might have been a little different. But this was our way of saying, look, we're good. We're a good band. I write good songs. We write good songs.
Right.
We can do this with Rocky or without Rocky. It's all about writing a great piece of music.
Right. But I mean, after it came out and it had that success, did you find yourself in front of record companies with new songs and they were going, "Yeah, we don't hear the Eye of the Tiger in this batch. Try again"?
Well, luckily, you can say what you will about the Scotti Brothers. That was our label.
Right.
They were the first album was Atlantic distributed, and then we went with Epic, or they went with Epic. They were loyal like you could not believe.
Right.
If someone said they're a one-hit wonder, they'd say "fuck you,"
Right.
and they'd hang them out of the window by their ankles. I mean, these guys would fight for you.
Right.
So it was never that. It was like, yeah, you know what? You and Frankie really produced the hell out of the Premonition album. You guys are going to produce the Eye of the Tiger record. We're going, what? And yeah, we want you. The demos are better than the records. That's the way they felt about us.
Yeah, in fact, since we mentioned the Scotti Brothers, let's talk about them. They were out in California. They really had their pulse on hits. I mean, they knew how to make hits. They started off with Leif Garrett, and they moved on to Weird Al, and they also signed James Brown for a while. Tell me a little bit about them. What was it like working with the Scotti, or for, I guess, the Scotti Brothers?
Yeah, well, they had a great team. Tony was Ben was the muscle. Tony was the front man. It was really Tony's company. And, Ben was kind of the ex-football player who liked to throw his weight around and act tough. And, well, so did Tony. I mean, these guys were the real thing,
Right.
They taught the Italians, I think, Johnny Musso was their henchman, and he was our champion. He was the office. He was the guy that dealt with us on a daily basis. And he's the guy that if I wanted timpani drums on Runway Lights for the Premonition album, he would say, "Okay." Where other record label managers would go, "What the fuck?
Right.
Timpani drums on a rock record? Forget it." They would have meetings with us. We were their pet. We were their pet rocks. They would take us to Japan, put us up at all the greatest hotels, and get us sweet, those massages, and we were their guys. And of course, they were the most successful independent record promotion company in the world,
right.
And we had the advantage of that. So, John Colodner, when he signed us, We were going, why are you not putting us with Atlanta? He goes, trust me, you should be with the Scotty Brothers. So it worked. And they stuck with us for 8 albums.
How important were they in your career?
I can't even calculate it. And that's how important. I mean, nowadays, if you have a stiff album, the group is dropped.
Right.
We had 2 stiff albums. They were good albums. The first one with Kim Basinger on the cover. The second one, Premonition.
Right.
Some local breakouts, Summer Nights, Poor Man's Son, which, by the way, was the song that Stallone heard and said, I got to have that sound for my movie. It all built up to that. But if the label had dropped us after the first or second, we never would have seen Eye of the Tiger.
Which is true. And it's also sort of a change that we've seen over the years in the record industry. A lot of bands, whether it's Aerosmith or Kiss or you guys, or even Bon Jovi, it was the third album that made you. You don't get a third album anymore. Are albums sort of a lost art?
Well, they are. I mean, they are.
Right.
I mean, it used to be a song cycle. Used to buy them. Used to read the print. Used to see the credits. There used to be a whole cultural event that surrounded the albums like Sgt. Pepper or Buffalo Springfield. Again, they couldn't exist now because it's all piecemeal. It's back to the singles market, like when we used to buy 45s. The Ides of March had 6 45s out on Parrot. Mm-hmm. With only one hit, you wouldn't listen to 66. We never got an album because we never got that second attraction of another 45. We didn't get an album until we broke with Vehicle and after signing with Warner's.
Yeah, and Vehicle, of course, is one of the greatest tracks ever recorded.
Thank you.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. Frankie Sullivan wrote many songs with you. You've or it's been described that it was like a dysfunctional marriage working with Frankie. Bad things aside, what does he mean to you in your career?
Frankie was, I think the biggest thing he brought to the party was, first of all, he had the look of a rock star. I don't think Survivor would have gotten necessarily signed without Frankie because he had the look. I mean, Kalodner knew me from the Ides of March. He knew me when I was in his office, and he was Jerry Greenberg's little, gopher boy, and he liked my songs. Right. But I think it took that, let's call it a rock sex appeal of Frankie to push in the cup. The other thing that Frankie brought to the party, more than anything else, was he knew the brand.
Right.
He knew what Survivor was and should be.
Mm-hmm.
I was, I'm an eclectic writer. I write all over the deck, from R&B to country to rock to pop. And he knew what Survivor was supposed to be. He knew what our like I said, our trademark had to be. Right. So if I get outside that box, now I'm the writer, really. I'm the songwriter. But he was a very good editor and, came up with some really good riffs. And occasionally he would chime in with a lyrical phrase that was like, surprising.
Right.
Because he wasn't that type of a person, really. But more than anything, he skated on course.
Yeah, I mean, he really did, huh? He really did. He really.
Yeah.
Looking back at your career, you've been in many bands. You play guitar. You're a songwriter. What's your legacy? Would you consider yourself more a songwriter or a guitar player? How do you sort of sum up your career?
Well, I think it's an overriding spirit more than anything.
Okay.
It's what comes through all those franchises. The songwriting for sure, the messages of positivity. Those I don't try to write anthems. They just that's the way I am. I'm a very positive person overall,
right.
And that I feel that same optimism comes through on stage. I'm not a sulker. I'm the guy at the lip of the stage trying to rally the crowd with the guitar parts. I'm not a great player, but I put a lot into it. So I think it's just that same positive spirit, hopefully that touches all those areas.
Yeah, it really does. Now, you've written some great songs for Cheap Trick, Sammy Hagar, the song Heavy Metal, REO Speedwagon, Beach Boys. Was it important for you to write for other artists? Because some of the songs you've written could have or should have been great hits for Survivor or even the Ides of March. How was it important to write for other artists?
Well, Kalodner kind of almost forced me, no, pushed me into that.
Hmm.
He really needed me for some of his projects.
Right.
And of course, it caused an enormous tension between me and Frankie because
Yeah.
Frankie, his idea was to keep it all in house. My idea was a little more global. That I was a songwriter first. I had been writing songs since I was 11. That's kind of what I did.
Right.
So when Kalodner says, "Jim, you got to come to Florida, write with Henry Paul," and then the next time it was Sammy Hagar, and then later on it was and Steven Tyler and this and that. 38 Special. I mean,
Right.
that was the biggest one. And
Right.
that was actually right after Henry Paul. It was 38 Special. Now, they had recorded Rockin' Into the Night,
Right.
which basically Mark Spector stole the copy from John Kalodner and recorded it. It was supposed to be on the first Survivor album. And Ron Nevison had already decided it wasn't going on the record. But it wasn't to say we wanted it in the hands of 38 Special either,
Right.
So, we're riding down the highway going to a video shoot and we hear new from 38 Special and it's Rockin' Into the Night. This was the song that was our big song at all the clubs and we're going, oh shit, so it caused tension in the band. That was probably the biggest force of tension between me and Frankie was 38 Special. But at the same token, I owed my gift to spreading out. Now, the thing that my biggest defense on that, Mitch, is that I wouldn't have written those songs without 38 Special.
Right.
I mean, Rockin' Into the Night, obviously, we wrote ourselves, me and Frankie. But all the rest of them, Don Barnes and Jeff Carlisi, they would bring ideas to the table that I would help develop. So, Hold On Loosely was Don's title, and it was Jeff's riff. And then I was the Alchemist. That wouldn't have been a Survivor song. So, I mean, that was a misunderstanding. Those songs were not earmarked for Survivor.
Right. But Frankie has, I guess, gone on record as saying you gave away our hits. I mean, or some words to that effect. Has he ever forgiven you?
Well, I don't know. I really don't know. It's kind of a moot point. We don't communicate. I haven't forgiven him for a lot of stuff.
Right.
If he doesn't forgive me for that, I'm not surprised. There's still a lot of, bad blood between us. It's just, we just don't communicate, and we have our children in our songs, and we cooperate with each other when we need a favor or we need a permission to use a song or whatever, because we know it's going to benefit the whole thing.
Right.
But does he resent those early days? I don't know.
Well, would you like to have a rapprochement? Would you like to sort of put it all behind you and be able to call him up and say, hey, come on, let's write another song this week?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's just
Fair
like it's adding something in my life that I don't really look for right now. I'd rather be detente at this point.
Okay, well, fair enough. Jimmy Jameson passed away.
Yeah.
An incredible singer. And I'll just ask you the very simple question. What did Jimmy mean to you?
Jimmy was the best singer I ever worked with. A dear spirit and a dear heart to go along with that. We're really very, very close to the end. When I left the band in '96, my biggest regret is I wouldn't be able to work with Jimmy again.
Right.
Or so I thought. And like I said, the first thing we said to each other today was I get inspired by singers.
Right.
And good Lord, we had been auditioning singers. This is back in '84 after Dave left. And we heard one fairly mediocre singer after another. Then we had a real good singer come out, Kevin Chalfont, who
Right.
we were really interested in. And 2 days later, Jimmy came and just blew the doors off of everything. First song I showed him was Broken Promises. And, he just said, I taught him the song, he sang it into my ear. Summer and smoke, diamonds and dust, go where you will, do what you must. And I'm going, oh shit, goosebumps all over. I knew that this was the voice I'd been looking for. We had run in kind of a stagnant thing with a little bit with Caught in the Game. It was a good record. Dave was struggling though. And this was the new life I was looking for as a songwriter. So, I mean, besides being a great cat to hang with, we had a lot of laughs and a lot of good times. He was also my muse, really. I don't think I would have written half of those songs if I wasn't imagining his voice singing them.
Yeah, I mean, it's as a fan of the music, to me, it's a big loss that there won't be another new song with his voice. I was told we had 20 minutes, and I've gone over that, but I'll just ask you quickly about Through the Eye of the Tiger. Just tell me a little bit about the experience of looking back on your life and writing a book. Do you look back sometimes and go, "Oh my God, what was I thinking?" Is it cathartic in any way? Did it reveal any truth that you hadn't thought about?
Oh, there was a lot of catharsis in that book.
Right.
A lot of it was, redealing with my association with Frankie. I still have, I guess he comes in my dreams, and we're still like working together.
Right.
I mean, you can't work with someone for 17 years and not have them be a fabric in your life.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, confronting all that, and what was he feeling, and how could it have been different? How could it have been better? And also kind of realizing that, like I said earlier with you, I guess it made me realize that he did have a very large part, if not in the creation, he knew what Survivor was, in the branding of it.
Absolutely.
I was so resentful that I was no longer singing or co-singing lead as I had originally planned, because Frankie's vision of the band was a one-singer concept. So I was so busy being resentful about that I kind of failed to see the positive side of what he brought to everything. The other thing was just how much separation I had from my family, from my wife, and what a strain that was on my marriage, and how lonely I was on the road. When I was writing the book, I was reliving those days on the bus month after month. It sounds romantic with Area Speedwagon and Bryan Adams and Triumph. And, the only romantic part was, the hour and a half you stood on stage.
Right.
The rest of it was isolation, at least for me. Now, with the IDES, when we would go out, we were like a band of brothers. With Survivor, because the chemistry wasn't the same. I was almost an outcast, where, I didn't hang with the guys. Sometimes Frank wanted a separate dressing room. It wasn't the party that people think it was. It wasn't the celebration. When Eye of the Tiger went #1, it was like not that cool. The people were going nuts, but we were not feeling it. There was a lot of resentment in the band at that time, because 38 Special had a hit concurrently at the time called Caught Up in You.
Right.
And, even though Tiger went, so much huger than that, there was always this kind of, well, then there's 38 Special, and it kind of put a blight on things. So, yeah, I mean, it made me confront a lot of things in the writing of the book. I thought initially, Mitch, that there wasn't going to be enough conflict in the book, because I didn't get, into substance abuse and,
right.
Groupies and all that. But man, I'll tell you, as I was writing it, I was crying, because there was so much conflict, being away from your family and feeling isolated on the road.
Did it help you work through any of that? Do you feel, I don't want to sound like a psychologist, but do you feel like a more whole person now, or do you regret the process?
No, I understand it more, and
okay.
By understanding it, I can put it to rest. It's like the first sentence, the sentence that started the book. I was in St. Cloud, Minnesota, doing 2 weeks with the Fabulous Armadillos. It's kind of like a super group there, and they bring guest stars out, and what do you do in St. Cloud, Minnesota, but start a book?
Right.
And the first words I put to paper was, I wouldn't trade lives with anyone. And that remains.
Yeah, it really does. And we're a little bit over time, so thank you for that. And
I wanted to, I wanted to make sure that Carol doesn't bust my ass. Do you want to talk a little about the box set or not?
yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. In fact, I have a collection in front of me here. I've got the
Mm-hmm.
sampler in front of me. Tell me a
Uh-huh.
little bit about putting it together. I mean, it's called Last Band Standing, the I'm saying that all wrong. Definitive 50-year anniversary collection.
Right.
Um, hey, I mean, it's a great little package. I mean, look at that.
Thank
It's
you. Well, wait till you see the box set. It's 5 discs.
yeah.
4 discs are all the recorded material from 1964 with our first self-financed, we didn't call them indies in those days, single called Like It or Lump It. All the way through the Warner Brothers, we licensed all the Warner Brothers stuff that are the best of, and the best of the RCA stuff for the first time ever. Transferred from master tapes to digital. They had to bake the tapes, that whole process. All the way up to the independent stuff we did from 1990, and then 3 brand new songs.
Yep.
One is the title track, Last Band Standing, that features Steve Cropper, which is a real cool, and he's a good friend, and we do shows with him now. And then the 5th disc is live at the House of Blues, a really great show last May.
Yep.
15 songs, I would say, the best of our repertoire, the best of Ides of March, the Survivor, the 38, Sammy Hagar, and brand new songs. And then, spare footage from the John Biner show and the Mama Cat show and Dick Clark, and a lot of a treasure trove of all that kind of stuff from the 60s and 70s.
How involved were you in compiling it? Did you sit down and listen to all these tracks and choose them, or did a record company just say, "Hey, look, we're putting this out"?
Yeah, no, we're the record company.
Okay.
It's a release on our own Ides of March Records through Baker and Taylor, which is the kind of mega distributor guys for books and DVDs and stuff. So yeah, no, this is a very laborious, hands-on process, and we're really proud of it.
When you have a package like this, and it's so voluminous, there's just so much to sink your teeth into. How much pride do you have looking back at that and go, man, look at what we did?
So much. The first 3 tracks are brand new,
right?
And then boom, it goes back to Like It or Lump It. The 4th track is the first track we ever did. And you know what? It sounds like the same band. I mean, yes, I was 15, but it sounds like the same collection of individuals. The spirit comes through.
Oh, it really does. It really does. And I'm glad I have this little sampler in front of me, and I'm looking forward to getting the whole collection. Actually, that's.
I'll make sure you get one.
Oh yeah,
we
absolutely.
will get you one.
Absolutely. Right. Anywhere where people can find you online, what's the best place?
Well, theidesofmarch.com is always good.
Okay.
Put the THE in the beginning. JimPeterik.com is pretty terrific. And I'm very active with the official Jim Peterik Facebook page. Keep it up to date, pretty regularly, every other couple of days. Always something happening in the life, and having a ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's terribly unfair to only to squeeze 50 years of career into only 30 minutes, but we did the best we did the best we could, and hopefully you are one of these artists that won't retire and go live somewhere warm, and will continue hitting the road and continue making new music, because it's worth having.
Well, I'm going to do it, and I turned I was 64. I'm going to be 65 in November.
Wow.
And I'm feeling 100%. Just want to keep doing it.
That's great. Thank you, Jim. Oh, it's a great pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, you too, Mitch. Thank you so much for the questions and your knowledge of the whole thing.
I tried my best, and I have to say, as I was going through it, I kept saying, "Oh shoot, I forgot to ask this question. Oh shoot, okay." Now, because there's too much. I mean, that's the challenge, is to sort of write the condensed version, right? But Hey,
Well, there'll be a next time.
there will be a next time, and thank you for all you've done, and thank you for Eye of the Tiger. I happened to watch Rocky 3 yesterday. It was on TV up here in Montreal, and
Uh-huh.
it was funny because at the end of it, your name came up and said, written by, and I said, "Hey, I'm interviewing him tomorrow." So,
Well, you'll get a kick out of the new trailer for the Ben Stiller movie, While We're Young. They have a great usage of Eye of the Tiger. It's a pretty terrific movie, too, so check it
absolutely.
out.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
All right. Thanks, Mitch.
Bye-bye now. There you have it, my interview with Jim Peterik, Survivor's founding member, talking, of course, about the IDES of March, the last band standing, the definitive 50th anniversary collection, and his other projects. Again, this interview was brought to you by the Heavy Montreal Festival, taking place August 7th, 8th, and 9th in downtown Montreal at Parc Jean Drapeau. Korn, Faith No More, Slipknot, Iggy Pop, Lamb of God, Mastodon, and many, many more. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I certainly hope you enjoyed it. And come back next week. There'll be more. Bye for now.